All right, good morning, everybody. It is the Safety and Sportswriter show with Knoxville Nate and Big Joe and James Bonneville sitting in. And in fact, it is kind of a combination show today. It's the Safety and Sportswriter meets man coverage as we get here to talk to you. Last day of the NFL season. We are now all set with the Final Four of NCAA, so a little extended, everything football today. We're going to do top to bottom. Is, as I say, the saddest day of the year for me with the fact that the football season is over with. Maybe the Giants going to bed isn't that bad about it, but we are going to start out with the NCAA and then get into some NFL. And we're going to start it now. How you guys doing?
Doing good, bud.
Yeah.
All right. Like I was talking to Nate earlier on the phone, is there a sadder person in the United States than Lane Kiffen right now? And I love watching him stew right now. Did he make the wrong move or what?
He's still getting paid. I mean, even though he's not coaching, I mean, I want to get a job where I leave and I still get the bonuses after the fact. I mean, that's like the greatest freaking job in the world. I mean, outside of some of these like Jimbo Fisher's buyout clause, I mean, quite frankly, it's like the gift that keeps on giving.
But I mean, here's a guy who put this program.
Yeah, and I would take that too.
Go ahead.
He's getting $500,000 for Ole Miss winning, and I guess James, correct me if I'm wrong. I think he can get up to $1 million if they win the national championship. So he's got no pressure and can take all the reward. But it's just, it's interesting to me that. They go out, they play a phenomenal game against Georgia, probably one of the best games of the entire college football playoff so far. They win, they come from behind, and, he's out there tweeting, making it about him. Like, oh, look, Here we go, Ole Miss wins. It's like, dude, you're not a part of it anymore. You chose to not be a part of it, so don't act like you're part of the team. He went to the game, Joe, and sat in a box and then was like taking pictures with his family and acting like he was part of this. It's like you chose to move on. And I think if you choose that, you should do that and move on. But I guess if you're getting paid every time they win, you might want to be there and celebrate, right?
But if, here's the other flip side of that coin. I mean, should colleges be allowed to poach other teams' coaches while they are active and coaching another team? Should that be allowed? I don't know if there's any way to stop it. I mean, but seems to me they should not be allowed. In the pros, you can't do that. You can't. I mean, the Giants have not been allowed to talk to Mike Tomlin while they've been, after they fired their coach. I mean, so what is that right?
But we've been having it before. I mean, how often have we seen coaches not coach the bowl game and get hired and are at a different school? I mean, hell, Luke Fickell coached a bowl game for Wisconsin and didn't coach one game during the season. I mean, this has gone on before, and it all comes down to the transfer portal. The timing of the transfer portal is absolutely asinine, and I think there is a way to make it better, but the problem is that I don't think the players are going to want that. And I think that's making a transfer portal for 2 weeks, and it's at the beginning of May. And then have spring ball right after that.
Makes sense to me. I mean, because this is just
they got to get the schedule right.
Yeah, because you got so many people who are. I mean, portal open on the 2nd. Well, a lot of these schools, their semester starts next Monday. I mean, they got to get guys in quick so they're academically playing because they want them to be in spring ball. So to get that 15 more practices in before you go into fall ball.
I guess there's no real answer to it, but the fact that it just seems so funky and so effed up that this kind of stuff goes on. And I mean, it's kind of the old saying, who do you trust? Who do you trust anymore? I mean, it's I don't know. It's just crazy to me that, first of all, it went by in the first place. We were talking, on our show about, now that they don't even care about firing a coach 4 games into the season anymore. That was unheard of a decade ago. It'd be okay. We're going to ride the guy out, and we know he's going at the end of the year. Screw it. We're not going to try and put together a false coaching staff and make it through. But I mean, I'll tell you, two guys that really struck out to me in the bowl season this year, and I want to send a shout out to them are Luke Altmaier and Cade Klubnik for playing in their bowl games when they didn't have to.
Yeah.
Most of the other guys sat there and said, I'm playing for nothing. I'm getting ready for the draft. These two guys put their bodies on the line, stayed out there and stayed with their team. And I'd love to see if that would be a wave that started again, because now the bowls are just ridiculously stupid to watch.
Yeah, I thought more guys played this year than what I'd seen in the last several years. You think about it, Arch Manning played for Texas, Bryce Underwood played for Michigan. There was more quarterbacks and Diego Pavia played for Vanderbilt. I'm just saying, like, the big name guys were playing in all these games, and it was kind of cool and refreshing to see. And it made the bowl games, fun to watch.
Right.
But, as far as the coaching goes, it's kind of a weird thing because the college football schedule is all screwed up. They have recruiting the recruiting period now. James, when was it? December 6th, when the first signing day was. It was early, first week of December, and so a lot of these teams want to get their coach in place before that, and then you have the portal opening up January 2nd, 2 days ago, and so they want to have everything together with that. And it's hard to get mad at these coaches for jumping around when these teams fire these guys, on a whim. James Franklin loses 3 games. He's fired in the middle of the season. These teams will fire these guys whenever they want. So why can't they leave and go to better pastures whenever they want? So once there's no rules basically in college football anymore. And that's what's really sad, because I still think it's a fun, exciting sport. And I still enjoy it. But the fact that there's no rules and that coaches can leave and come and go whenever they want, players can come and go whenever they want, that's the saddest part. Half these guys are playing on 4 different teams in 4 years. Yeah. And to me, that's just crazy. I can't even imagine that. College goes by so quickly anyway. How can you go play on 4 different teams in 4 years? And how can any of your credits transfer if you're at a different school every semester? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I think rocks for jocks is the same in any college, so that's okay. You know what I mean? You could always take those silly. I remember one guy I read was taking the history of rock and roll. I forget which athlete that was, but anyways, let's get back to the games on the field. Setting up for the Final Four. Let's first start out with the James Madison and Tulane inclusion. I don't want to make it about Notre Dame, because Notre Dame set their own problems, their own agendas. But do we really need James Madison and Tulane in there? Can't we do something without that?
I thought one of the two deserved to be in, but not both. But who of that one of the two would you put in? I don't know. I'd probably say James Madison, but I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts?
No, I agree with that 100%. I kind of like the fact that they should have maybe a play-in where they pick one of those teams. I'm confused, James, as to why they had to. Why were both of them allowed in? You think about the way that Texas played against Michigan. I mean, I don't think Notre Dame should have got in based on, their schedule and all of that. But still, I do think they would have given someone a better game than, Tulane. I do think they would have probably, James Madison actually played Oregon pretty tough and put up a lot of yards. So I have no problem with letting one of these G5 teams into the dance, but I don't understand letting 2 of them in. That to me made no sense, and just needs, is going to require further adjustment as we go through this thing.
Well, I mean, you're going to go ahead, James. No, go ahead, James.
I mean, the antitrust stuff, you're going to have a group of 5 team in there just from the antitrust stuff. I mean, hell, you go back to the late 90s, early 2000s of the BCS, and people were trying to keep out Utah or Boise State, and you're going to get politics involved in it. And the more we can keep politics out of this, the better off we are.
No, agreed with that. I am just, it's kind of like with the basketball tournament, the dark horse is probably going to make it through, the upset in the first round and be out in the second round. So, I mean, they're basically, you're looking at that team getting one game and then being sent home. So, I mean, in a way, it's like when I look at it, yeah, they played well against Oregon as well as they can, but is it really useful, or could there be a better chance of someone upsetting Oregon and Oregon not making it through if we had a Texas there? So,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do think, James Madison, I do think one team deserves to get in. And that's why I think maybe having a 4-team playoff kind of thing where the best 4 group of 5 teams play each other in a 4-team playoff, and then whoever wins that gets one of the spots. I have no problem with that. I mean, if you think about it, a couple of years ago, Cincinnati, as James mentioned, Boise State, those teams had good years. Boise, even went up and knocked off Oklahoma in the game. So it can happen. And Joe, as you were mentioning with the college basketball, there's been teams that have made it Loyola made it to the Final Four,
Butler.
What's that?
Butler.
Yeah, Butler made it to the national championship. Florida Gulf Coast made it to the Elite Eight.
St. Peter's.
St. Peter's made it deep. So, there are some of these runs, and these teams deserve a chance, but I just don't think dropping 2 of them makes any sense at all, and they need to readjust this. How about we do the top 12 teams, and you take the top 12? I mean, it's not that tough. And then, obviously having the group of 5 qualifier. But, as we mentioned, I do think they did a better job this year with the seeding. But, another question to ask is, what about these buys? Is getting a buy really, a benefit, considering now James, everybody is 1-7 of all the teams that have gotten a buy. Nobody's won except for Indiana. And that to me is kind of something that needs to be looked at, because it's like, are you benefiting getting this buy and sitting there for almost a month? I mean, 25, 26 days and not playing.
Something that there's a flaw in the system, and it will never change because of the bowl system, is the first round games, the higher seed gets a home field advantage.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're a top 4 team, you don't get a home field advantage. You're playing neutral site.
Yeah.
You can't tell me a lot of these games would be incredibly different if, let's say last year, Ohio State had to go to Oregon, or Miami had to go to Ohio State. I mean, it's a lot different playing in a neutral site environment versus a home field environment. And not only that, I think there's got to be restrictions too on the bowl games on how far away a team could be, because you could have, if A&M beat Miami, A&M could have had home field advantage practically playing at Jerry World against Ohio State. How is that fair to the higher seeded team? It's not.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
That's there's always going to be a little bit of a problem with that. But what I wanted to get to too is like, James, you're the guy who is the Big Ten man. You're out in that area, and I can't say I watched a lot of Indiana this year, but what they did to Alabama shows just how good they are. How did the Hoosiers go from being a basketball school to a football school? And is there a blueprint out there for teams like them, like, I don't know, just off the top of my head, a Purdue, a Minnesota, or something to follow to put themselves on the national map the way Indiana has now, or is this just a flash in the pan for them?
It's going to be interesting to see how next year goes, because I think that's going to be a bigger barometer. But I think you're going to see a higher focus on not only recruitment but player analysis. You look at Cignetti's career through Indiana, years through Pennsylvania, Elon, James Madison, now Indiana. Prior to that, he was the recruiting coordinator for Nick Saban at Alabama. So he's knowing this, and everywhere he's developed those underperforming talents. A lot of this team came from James Madison to, like, look at Fisher and Pons. Those guys are going to be gone next year. But I think you're going to see a bigger focus on player analysis, and I think you're going to start seeing more teams implementing what Vanderbilt's done and now what Florida's doing, is really having a GM who's dealing with player analysis, who's not on the field, like a full-time player analysis guy, because you're not recruiting 30 guys for December and February for next season. Your pool is like 300. Now your pool is like 10,000, because that kid you lost out on as a high school kid, you may get back as a junior or senior. And keeping that information flowing on how they're doing and how they're developing is going to be even more key.
Yeah, and the way that this is all panned out is, the coach matters, right? In college football, who their head coach is huge, because that's who's in charge of everything. That's who hires the staff. That's who manages which players you get, what schemes you run. So the coach is very important. And that's how Indiana has gone from one of the losingest teams of all time to the best team in college football right now. Let's just call a spade a spade. They are the best team right now. And the way they've done that is they have a really good coach who understands how to build a roster. Okay, look at Rick Barnes in Tennessee. Obviously, this year isn't going as well, but the last couple of years, he's gone out in the portal. He got Dalton Connect. He got Chaz Lanier. Other teams have done that too, where they build their teams with guys that have played college sports for 2 or 3 years. They've proven themselves production-wise and skill-wise, and then you bring them in and add them to the pieces that you already have, and that's how you can, build a team really quickly. And I think more and more teams are going to be doing that, as far as adding guys through the portal, finding the guys that fit their team correctly. Maybe not the highest price guys or the highest rated portal guys, but the guys that fit what they want to do, and then bringing them in. And that's what Curt Cignetti has done, at Indiana. He's gotten the guys that fit what he wants to do. He's got them to buy in, and look at what's happened. I mean, it's amazing, the turnaround that's been done there.
Well, I mean, look at the quarterback play. In 2024, you had Curtis Rourke, who, if you knew his brothers, played in the CFL and the NFL. They've been good. It's a good quarterback family, and he won at Ohio. This guy was an undervalued asset. Fernando Mendoza, originally was a Yale commit. Cal comes in late, and look what he did as another undervalued asset. Next year, Josh Hoover, who is, I would not consider an undervalued asset. He's a real deal kind of player. And I think they're going to keep going if they could find that receiving core to match, with Surratt leaving next year.
Yeah, and they've got Charlie Becker coming back, as me and you talked about, James, earlier.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I love the Josh Hoover fix. This guy is truly amazing. He's played almost 3 years of college football at TCU. He's had immaculate numbers. He's good at running the offense. He's good at going through progressions. He's good at finding the open guy. He's a pretty big dude that's got these skills. He's got the arm. I mean, there's nothing this guy can't do. And now you put him in Curt Cignetti's system with some of his players that he's going to get. I think they're going to have 3 good quarterbacks in a row. And if this guy can have 3 seasons like this consecutively, I think you have to start talking about Curt Cignetti being, the best coach in college football, if not, one of them. I think he already is one of them, but I think if he can do it 3 years in a row, you got to just give the guy his due. And he's on his way by signing Josh Hoover and getting him signed up so quickly. That's the thing that he's done better than anyone. He's identified who he wants. He's gone out and gotten them signed up faster than anybody else, which is, got to get the quarterback in place first, right? Whether you're in college or the NFL.
Is Cignetti, how far does Cignetti's contract go out in Indiana?
He just got an extension. I think it's another 7-8 years, right?
That's good.
Yeah, he's through 2031 now. They just extended it, or they kind of redid it. He's still on the old contract right now, basically, but he's got an extension that takes him up. I think it was 6 years, $93 million. So he's going to be at Indiana for the long term. They've made a huge financial investment into their program, into their coaches, into their players. And that's the other thing is you've got to get the money thing right. You have to have the funds available to weigh, hey, Josh Hoover, we've identified you. You are the guy that we want. Look what we're doing here. Come and see us. Here's the financial package that we can offer you. If your financial package isn't competitive with the other offers he's getting, he's not even going to look at you. So the money piece has to be in there too. You've got to have a collective going. You've got to have the payout system that's going out through all the Power 4 teams. You have to have that set up to where what you've got a pie basically. And out of that pie, we've got this amount of money for coaches. We've got this amount of money to pay guys with NIL. We've got this amount of money from the collective that we can use. And it's really important to identify who you want and, what they're worth. And I go back to, obviously I'm a Buckeye homer, but I go back to the example of Ethan Uenura, the offensive tackle from Rice that they identified last year, went out, paid him $1.1 million. He never even played. You can't take over $1 million, allocate it for a guy who's not even going to play on the field for your team. I think that hurt them this year, and they've got to do a better job of identifying guys.
Well, not only on the field, but in the locker room. I mean, I guarantee you there's going to be times where on paper you're going to see some teams that are going to be lights out, but you bring in a couple toxic pieces to that locker room. I mean, you could have the best teams in the world literally crumble before your eyes, and they're getting paid $1, $2, $3 million together, $4 million together. I mean, it's very possible.
I got to be honest. If I'm Austin Severfield and I'm the left tackle for the Buckeyes and I'm making $200,000, and the guy that's 2 spots behind me is making $1.1 million, I'm pissed off. Why is that guy making more money than me and he's not even playing? That can cause problems. And so it's a really delicate balance right now between coaching, between money, between talent identification. It's basically, Joe, as you know, become an NFL type of system where your head coach is your GM, and your staff is not only in charge of player development, but also, is like your player personnel department.
Yeah, that was always my thought. That would be the downside once they started paying the players, is when the starter is not making a significant amount more than the guy who's sitting on the bench. Yeah, it leads to, of course, jealousy, and it's just human nature. Why am I risking my life and limb out here and he's on the bench? I don't know if you ever used to watch the show Blue Mountain State, but it was that whole premise was about that, where a guy, he was a third string quarterback and getting all the girls and going to all the parties, and suddenly had to start and he couldn't play. So it was a funny show.
Hey, being the backup quarterback is a great gig if you can get it. In college football, in the NFL, I mean, you're making money, you're getting chicks, you're going to all the games, and you're a part of the team, but you really have no pressure. The only problem is once the guy goes down, and that's the other piece too. Really, if I look at, and obviously I look at everything from a Buckeye perspective, but if you think back to their championship team last year, they hit on every guy in the portal. Caleb Downs, Quinshon Judkins, Seth McLaughlin, their starting center. You go down the list, they hit on every single one of the guys they brought in. This year, not so much. And so that's what you have to do, is you have to obviously get the recruiting piece. You got to get these kids out of high school. You've got to develop them. You've got to retain them. And then you have to bring in the dudes from the portal that can not only supplement your team and fill holes, but you got to add depth, because now you have to play 16, 15, 16, 14 games in college football, which, is just crazy to me thinking about, Joe. They always talk about how they care about these kids' health and how they care about player safety. And now you're having kids in college play 15, 16 games, and then immediately they turn around, go to the combine, get drafted, and then play 17 to 20 games in the NFL. Nobody cares about anybody's health. I can assure you that. They're just numbers on the back. To take the name off doesn't even matter.
James Madison and Tulane, how about their ability to come back and make a run again next year? Did they lose a lot of players? I thought I heard James Madison lost a lot of players.
And their coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, James Madison's coach is gone. He's the one that went to Florida, correct?
No, James Madison went to UCLA.
UCLA.
Went to Florida.
Tulane went to Florida. My bad. Yeah. Tulane's coach went to Florida. James Madison's went to UCLA. So both of their coaching staffs are going to be gone, and a lot of their players are gone. So, that's going to be tough. Obviously, when your head coach goes through these new hires, turn around and can do the things that you want. And that's the problem too with these group of 5 schools. You have success. Well, then somebody comes and poaches your coach right away, and then you've got to start over. And that makes it even that much more difficult.
Yeah, especially to attract kids to go to James Madison when the coach is gone. They're not going to. They're going to follow the coach. They're not going to follow that. So,
Yeah.
is it worthwhile? Is it worthwhile for James Madison and Tulane for this year to get that one time in the spotlight? How financially does it rewarding is it for those schools for that one shot deal? Do you think?
What do you think, James?
I mean, honestly, I think it's on a I think one, and it's something that people don't think about, is from an academic standpoint. I guarantee you they're going to see a 10 to 15% increase in applications to their school from this. I mean, you've seen it time and time again during Miami's run, SMU's downfall. This has an incredible effect on applications coming in. Honestly, of the two, I think James Madison probably has the better chance. Billy Napier's coming in to take over for there. I think Billy could be a good fit. It's funny how Billy was everybody's favorite choice when he was at Louisiana, and suddenly things go south in Florida. And let's be honest, he's not the first coach things have gone south for in Florida, because that's a crazy place. Yeah. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if James Madison, he makes the comeback. Well, Will Hall, man, that's going to be a tough one. I mean, especially in the AAC, which really is becoming a better and better conference as the years go on. It's a very developed conference.
Correct. And I'm interested to see how many coaches, go with him from Tulane and leave, because a lot of that staff has been there for a long time. JJ McCleskey and some of those guys have been there for years. Even they survived the coaching change before. I don't know if that's going to happen again. And with Florida, they expect, just because they had Urban Meyer for a brief time, they expect every coach to win a national championship every year. And, that's not necessarily the case. So I think Billy Napier is going to do a great job. Financially, these teams, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, James, they get $4 million for making the college football playoff in 2026. Yeah. And so you're getting, think about some of these teams, these lower level teams, they go and they'll play a big time program, and get paid, $1 million for going there. And then that fuels a lot of their program's expenses for the year. So you got to think of a team like James Madison getting handed a check for $4 million. That is got to be worth it. Got to be worth its weight in gold. Then you add, as James mentioned, the exposure and getting your name out there and getting increased applications and increased student flow. That's even more money. So I think it's definitely worth it to them, even if they do lose their coach, right?
Yeah, I would say so. Especially, I never thought about the application. That actually more money coming in that they don't have to give out scholarships for, which is great. Let's get into the semifinals now. One thing I want you guys to, why is Ole Miss the number 6 team playing number 10 team Miami and not Indiana playing number 10 team?
They're going straight from the bracket, kind of like they do in the tournament. They don't rearrange. I mean, heck, you don't do the same. I mean, they do it now in the NFL, don't they? Where don't they reseed after?
No, they don't.
Oh, they don't? I remember they were talking about that.
They were talking about it, but they haven't done it. And that's one thing they've talked about in college too, right, James?
They did talk about it, but honestly, I like this the way it's at. It's going to be – I'm intrigued with the Oregon-Indiana game, because this is the second time they're playing against each other, and it's hard to beat somebody twice. I think that's going to be an intriguing game to watch. And Miami, has Miami ever won in the Fiesta Bowl? They've had some of the greatest collapses in Arizona. So, I mean, this should be interesting.
Yeah, let's talk about the Indiana-Oregon game real quick and hit that one first, because, that's the game to me that has the most intrigue as far as two teams that have already played once that are now playing again. I just don't see I see Indiana's gotten better, in my opinion, as the season has gone on. They started off pretty damn good. In the middle of the season, they were pretty damn good. And as you saw last weekend against Alabama, I feel like they're hitting on all cylinders right now. I mean, they lost Daly, their starting defensive end. James, I didn't really see it make that much of a difference, which to me is crazy, considering how good that guy is and how productive he's been all year. But this is a team that is good on the offensive and defensive lines. This is a team that has a cerebral quarterback that makes the right reads, hits the open guys. They can run the football. They can pass the football. I just don't see Oregon being able to beat this team the way that they're playing right now. And now Oregon's doing things right also and has impressed me, especially with the way they handled Texas Tech. And as James, you and me talked about, the way that Oregon's defense played against Texas Tech was lights out. But I just feel like Indiana is the better team. I feel more comfortable with their quarterback, and I feel more comfortable with their running game, being able to sustain drives and keep the ball, out of Oregon's hands. What do you think?
Well, it's funny is everybody all year long has been talking about Indiana's offense. The strength of this team is not their offense. It's their defense. I mean, Aiden Fisher and Pons at corner are two of the least talked about assets that should be, I think we're going to hear more and more about them come April in the draft. I mean, this is going to be a game of defense on defense. And I tend to move slightly in the Indiana favor on this one, but I think this is going to be a tight game. I really do. I mean, I think if Oregon's going to win this one, DeCorian Moore and Sadiq have to be the guys that pull them over the top. If Indiana, I think it's got to come down to their running game with him being in black, really pulling the weight, because that front seven is really the strength of Oregon right now.
Is Signetti or Lanning the better game coach?
Ooh.
That's a good question. As much as I dislike Dan Lanning, he's done a good job.
Yeah.
In game and especially in big games. I mean, even think about last year, the first time they played Ohio State, he had a really good game plan and that game was going back and forth. And then he had that really, kind of crazy coaching move at the end of the game where they had the 12 guys on the field and it didn't really matter from a game ending perspective. And that he does things like that where he really knows what's going on and does a good job of putting his team in the best, opportunity to win, which is all you can really do as a coach. Now, my question is, he's losing both of his coordinators after the season, but, both those guys, I believe, James, correct me if I'm wrong, have stayed on.
Yes, they have.
So, that's huge, having his staff intact like he has. But, you watch that Bama game, it was 3-0 early in the second quarter. It was anyone's game. And, then Indiana just started making the right calls on offense. They started getting into the right fits on defense and really started imposing their will, at the line of scrimmage. And I think I expect to see that again.
All right. How about let's get to the other game. Miami, the party crashers, they took out your Ohio State there a little bit there. So we got Miami and we got Ole Miss, who I guess they're a party crasher as well, considering what we talked about earlier in the broadcast. What about this game? Give me an analysis on this matchup.
Why don't you go first, Nate, on this one?
Okay, I've got to reach out here and I've got to give some credit where it's due, and that's with Trinidad Chambliss. James, you called this early in the season once he took over the starting job, when the original Simmons, the original quarterback for Ole Miss, went down with an injury. Well, they put Trinidad Chambliss out on that field, and they never have been able to take him off of it, just with the way that this kid has played. He gives you that element of being able to run. He can throw it. He seems, he's cerebral. He played at, Division II Ferris State and went deep in playoff runs there. This guy, it's not too big for him. And that's what I guess has kind of been the biggest surprise for me, I guess, especially, in that Georgia game. He wasn't rattled at all. He didn't see nothing, losing his head coach and, half the staff didn't seem to bother him. These guys have a lot of togetherness and they've got a lot of purpose right now. And I feel like this Ole Miss team is on a mission. I mean, even Golding can't screw this up, right? I
think the key in that game is going to be Lacey. honestly. That running game, I mean, because that front four from Miami is pretty impressive. I mean, you're talking about two guys that'll be drafted in the first day. I think Bain should be. I mean, I look at mocks and I'm kind of shocked how low Bain is. I thought it'd be much higher in that respect. So that getting that running game going to allow Chambliss to get the ball to Wallace and Stribling is going to be key to make that happen. Because, I mean, you look at the Ohio State game, they couldn't run outside the tackles. The running game was not providing anything. And when they did go back, I mean, Miami was just teeing off. And it was just a struggle bus for them. So I get that running game going for Ole Miss. In my mind, it's going to be the key. Do I think Miami can score on Ole Miss? Yeah. I mean, you look at Tony especially. And then, I mean, Mark Fletcher runs harder now than I think he has during his time in college football, Nate. I mean, would you disagree with me on that? I mean, I think he's very underrated in how downhill of a runner he really is.
Fletcher?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this guy, there's a reason that the Buckeyes were all in on this dude from the beginning, and he originally committed to Ohio State and then at the last minute flipped down to Miami. That's where his dad played and went to school, and so there's some history there, and he's kind of the cog, cog or that piece for that offense that makes everything go. If Ole Miss can stop the Miami running game, that to me is the difference in this game, because if you put the onus on Carson Beck, we've seen it time and time again where he folds and he makes mistakes and he throws it to the other team. And if you can make it all about Carson Beck, you can cause big time problems for the Miami offense. No offense to him. I'm not making fun of him just because he's an ugly, weird dude. I'm just saying I've seen him, crash and burn before, and that's been their issue in every game that they lost this year. If you go back to that Louisville game, he threw 4 picks, actually threw 5. If you look at the one that was called back for a bullshit, late hit on the quarterback, he threw 4 accepted interceptions and really threw 5. So that was an issue there. The SMU game, he didn't play very well either. I feel like if Miami can't run the ball, they're going to have a long, long day.
Oh, yeah.
And have difficulty winning. But Ole Miss, I agree with you. Lacey is their best player on their entire team. He's probably the best running back in all of college football, to be honest with you. Agreed. And I feel like it's important to get him going. But, what's different about this game than the Ohio State game is Ole Miss has a running quarterback. So you're not going to be able to just pick a spot and tee off on Chambliss. You come back there crashing in on him, he'll take off and run down the field or move to the side and get out of the way of the rush and throw on the run. Julian Sayin isn't capable of doing that, as we've learned, whereas Trinidad Chambliss can. And that, to me, gives Ole Miss a little bit more hope there.
All right, so who are your picks for the final?
You go first, James.
Indiana, Miami.
I'm going to Indiana and Ole Miss. I feel like Ole Miss is on a mission. I feel like these guys are motivated. I feel like they've got the better quarterback. That might just be my opinion, but I feel like Trinidad Chambliss is better than Carson Beck. And I feel like they just, have a all-around team that can get it done. Even though I watched Miami, stifle my boys and play a really good game against Ohio State, can they sustain that? Which coaches do I trust? Do I trust Mario Cristobal? I don't know. But the other thing that we haven't even mentioned is, are all the coaches for Ole Miss going to be there? Because they're contractually, they're obligated to be in Baton Rouge next week. So are they going to be allowed to stay on and coach for Ole Miss? If they're not, that could be a big, big, big problem. Hey, what do you say, Cobber? Yeah, buddy, I got your Hoosiers. This is the guy right here who called the Hoosier onslaught before anybody else. Christopher Cobb has been a Indiana fan his entire life. Grew up in Indiana. He's gone to Indiana football games as long as I can remember. And he called this. long before anybody else. He just got back from Pasadena. He was going to the Big Ten championship game. I told him he was an idiot, that they wouldn't even make it. When he bought the tickets, they made it. They kicked our ass, and now they're playing, in the semifinals. So I feel good about your Hoosiers, brother. But I feel good about Ole Miss too, unless none of their coaches who are calling the plays are allowed to go. Charlie Weiss, called a pretty good game, James, against Georgia. If he's not there, can they still win?
Running back coach already has declared he's out. He's going to LSU. So, I think you're going to see more coaches leaving before it's all said and done.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem, Joe, if the coaching staff that was in place last week isn't there the following week.
That's another thing. We go back to the beginning of the broadcast, how bogus it is that, it's just not fair to the players at all. So
no. Well, I think it's coaches and players. You make a commitment to a team, you get paid for being on that team. You should be on that damn team from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. You took the money, you put it in your checking account. You need to be there from the beginning to the end, but that's not how it works.
No, it's just not fair. All right, let's get to a little bit of pro football. We're in the last day of pro football today. Biggest game will be the last game of the night, which is going to be the Ravens and the Steelers. So let's start there. Aaron Rodgers definitely is not the Aaron Rodgers of 5 years ago. And definitely they made it a lot harder on themselves when they could have really cushioned their schedule or their record coming into this last week. They blew up in the middle of the season. A lot falls on Tomlin, a lot falls on Rodgers, a lot more falls on that defense that never measured up. And the Ravens have rallied. James, I don't know if you've heard us talk about this, but I've been a big detractor. I don't want to say detractor. I just think John Harbaugh's time in Baltimore I think it should come to the end sooner rather than later. I think he's kind of lost a feel for coaching that town and needs a new start. Let's start with you guys. What you think? First of all, who's in the better shape going into this game? And of the two coaches, which is more likely to be back next year?
Wow.
I don't make it easy. I don't make it easy.
I honestly, I could see both kind of walking away on their own. Especially in the NFL or in pros in general. If you've been there too long, does the snap of what you say really resonate? Sometimes a new, fresh place does a lot of good. And, heck, Tomlin's been there, 19 years? It seems like yesterday he was the defensive coordinator at Minnesota before he took the job. And Harbaugh's been there forever, too, as well. I honestly, it was funny when the Michigan job opened up. I literally thought one of those two guys was going to get that job. So I could easily say both could be gone next year and on their own accord.
I could see that, and I think a lot of it comes down to this game. Who goes to the playoffs and keeps playing, who doesn't. Even if the team that wins today goes on into the playoffs, are they going to make a deep run? I don't think either of these teams have really shown us that they're ready to make a deep run for whatever reason. I think there's a multitude of reasons. The biggest thing today that I feel like that the Ravens have a leg up is because DK Metcalf's not playing. This has been a problem for the Steelers all year long. They've got DK Metcalf as a deep receiving threat, and they've got a bunch of shit on the rest of their receiving core. Now they've got three good tight ends, but how much 13 personnel are you going to run? They run a lot of it, but you're not going to get deep threats with 320-pound Dwayne Washington running down the field. So I think DK Metcalf being out today and being suspended for chucking that guy into the stands is huge. And I think that's going to be a big problem because he's been the one guy that's really been a game breaker for the Pittsburgh receiving game. And Aaron Rodgers, to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of that guy, but he's played pretty well this year considering that the run game has been up and down. The receivers suck except for DK Metcalf. Half the time he's thrown balls and the guys aren't in the right spot or they don't know which route they're doing or they just can't get open. When guys are open, he generally hits them. So I feel like DK Metcalf being out today is going to be huge.
Yeah. Who are they going to throw to? Adam Thielen, who's 34 now. I mean, he's not the spring chicken he was heck a decade ago. I mean, it's a completely. I mean, who's gonna be their primary guy? Austin. I mean, there's just nobody there.
No, Calvin Austin and Adam Thielen. Are you serious? That's who we're counting on to get us to the playoffs? I mean, no offense to Calvin Austin, but he's not good. And Adam Thielen, as you mentioned, he was good 6 years ago. But do I trust him to win a game for me to get into the playoffs? Hell no. The other thing is you got to think Lamar supposedly is playing, but Lamar hadn't looked like Lamar all year. For whatever reason, I know injuries have been part of it. Part of it has just been, him being inconsistent. But he is not, I'm a huge Lamar fan, Joe, as you know. I stick up for him nonstop. And, I'm a mouthpiece for him basically, but he hasn't been playing like Lamar all season long. And either one of these teams could have taken the bull by the horns 6 to 8 weeks ago and got on a little bit of a winning streak and, map together 3 or 4 wins, and then this game wouldn't even mean shit right now. So these guys have been their own worst enemies, and it's kind of like who wants to win more and who can actually put it together for 4 quarters. I don't know, but I still feel a little bit better about the Ravens going into this just because they have Derrick Henry and the Steelers don't.
Do you think?
Go ahead, James. No, go ahead, James.
Do you think Pittsburgh now regrets trading George Pickens now?
Yeah, I would. I said that at the time. I'm like, why are you trading away the one guy on your team that's a problem in coverage? I never understood that. Look what he's done in Dallas. Hell, he's better than CeeDee Lamb on that team. And now you brought in DK Metcalf, and it was like, okay, well, kind of 1 for 1 there. But how about you bring in DK Metcalf and keep George Pickens?
Yeah, that's one of those trades that makes no sense. It just at the time it made no sense and makes very little more now when you see the outcome of it. The thing about this game, it's always been one of those the crown jewel games. The rivalry between Baltimore and Pittsburgh has always been great. We'll see if it matches up tonight. You've been in the ups and downs. Does it help either one of these teams to be waiting around all day, or I know as a coach I'd rather have them on at one, get it over with, but does it hurt or help to have the whole game, the whole day to look at this game and get ready for it, or does it help either one?
Go ahead, James.
Honestly, if I think it comes down to coaches, because if they're going to sit there and just run through film all day of tendencies they're going to see, then if I'm a player, I just want to get the hell out there and start playing right away, because then all you're doing is just kind of like amping things up more and more, and nerves just keep popping. If they just allow them just to kind of like do their thing, relax, just prepare on their own, like because they're professionals, then playing at night wouldn't be that big of a deal, because the crowd's going to be more amped up for a night game than they would be a day game. But I mean, as long as they're keeping, coaching staff keeps back, I mean, players wouldn't mind playing at night.
Yeah, that's the other thing to me that really sticks out about this one too is, where is this at? Playing in Baltimore this year hasn't really made as much as a difference as it has the rest of the Ravens' tenure in Baltimore. They've really been a pretty good home team this year. It hasn't made as much of a difference. So does playing in Pittsburgh matter? Is having that home field advantage and whatever it's called now, used to be Heinz Field, and the terrible towels going, does that matter? In the past, I would say definitely. This year, even for the Pittsburgh, being at home hasn't made as much of a difference. So, that's, I guess, another big question is, does playing at home, give the Steelers 3 points?
If honestly, the best thing Baltimore's got going for is Henry, and it's real easy to do that 15, 16 blade drive down the field where it's methodical and it can shut a crowd up really freaking quick, especially in the cold.
Yeah. Well, these teams played December 7th, which was, almost about a month ago. Derrick Henry had 94 yards on the ground. Lamar Jackson was not good. I think he was 19 of 35 with a touchdown and a pick. The biggest thing to me that's been missing all year from the Ravens arsenal is Lamar running the football. In that game against Pittsburgh, he actually ran a lot more than he has been and had 7 carries for 43 yards and a touchdown. That's what kept them in the game. But is he healthy enough to run around today? I don't think so. I mean, he was questionable as far as was he even going to play because of his back injury. So that to me concerns me. I think when Lamar is one-dimensional, he's not as dynamic of a player, and they'll be able to key on that. And Baltimore's receivers, besides Zay Flowers, sorry James about Rashad Bateman, but those guys, they don't really scare me either. DeAndre Hopkins is 49 years old. Mark Andrews, although a very good tight end, hasn't had the type of season that he's had the last few years. So it's kind of like Zay Flowers and a cloud of dust for their receivers as well. And if Lamar's not able to run it, I think that gives Pittsburgh the advantage.
All right, let's think, because tomorrow is the biggest day for coaching changes in the NFL. Going to give you a few names of who might finally and be looking for a new office come Monday, Black Monday, as they call it. Pete Carroll in Vegas, is he going to survive?
No, I think he's fired. I mean, they already fired the offensive coordinator. Pete Carroll's 74 years old, I think, 73, 74 years old. They're going to have the first pick of the draft. Let's be honest, it hasn't worked out. He kind of brought in Geno. He brought in the guys that he wanted. He hired the guys he wanted, and they've been worse than they were the year before. I don't know how you could look at this season and think that it's been any type of success whatsoever. No. And so I think they go in another direction. What do you think, James?
It's the Davis family. When in doubt, they'll fire
an owner. Fire the owner.
I mean, it's just now who they bring in. $6 million question, because sometimes it's a stroke of genius. Sometimes it's like, what the hell are you thinking? I.e., when they hired Lane Kiffen when he was assistant coach at USC. I mean, thought that was a little early for him, but what do I know?
Yeah, that didn't go well either. And obviously he got fired after going 4-12 or whatever that was. So I do think they make a move. I think they're going to start fresh. They're going to bring in a new coach. I think they're going to get a quarterback. Who that is, I don't know. But I do think that they move on from him.
How about Raheem Morris down in Atlanta?
I think they keep him just because this was his first year, right? Wasn't this his first season?
First or second?
May have been second. But the way they played at the end of the year, I think has bought him a little bit more time. Based on what I heard earlier today, they're firing their general manager, Terry Fontenot, and they're leaning towards keeping him, is basically what I've heard. And do I think they should? No, I don't. I think the end of this year, 2024 was his first year. So you're right. This is his second season. But I think this is just shown, the end of this year has shown me that he's not a good coach. You could have brought in anyone, including Bill Belichick, to coach this team. You chose Raheem Morris, and what's he done since he's been there? This is a guy who's 36-56 as a head coach. No offense to him. I like him as an assistant coach. But as a head coach, what does he do? He went 8-9 last year, and then they've regressed, and they're worse this year. And they couldn't even win the NFC South, which is arguably the worst division in the NFL. Right. I'm not a fan of him, and I think he should get fired, but it sounds like they're going to keep him on.
How about Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I could see him keeping him because, I mean, you look at this, the pieces are there. They just never put it all together. I mean, you look at, obviously the quarterback situation where Penix got hurt. Penix is going to get better. But you got Bijan, London, and Pitts. I think they got to strengthen the offensive line up a little bit. I like Chris Lidstrom on the offensive line. There are pieces there that there is possibility they can make this move. Because I mean, a lot of those times, those guys have had big games. It just seems like they can never put it all together in one game.
Yeah, well, they've got Bijan Robinson. He's one of the best running backs, if not the best running back in all the NFL right now. He also is a good pass catcher. They've got Drake London. They got Kyle Pitts. They've got Xavier Watts, who's probably been one of the best young defensive players in all of football. They had, they had Michael Penix, and then they've got also, a guy making $250 million as their backup. This team should have been able to win this division, in my opinion, with the talent that's been on it. And I put a lot of that on the coach.
How about a guy none of us could probably identify in a police lineup, Jonathan Gannon with Arizona?
Oh, jeez. I'm amazed he hasn't been fired already. Football.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for Jonathan Gannon simply because I think he's done a pretty good job this year, considering Jacoby Brissett is his freaking quarterback. I mean, you start the season with Kyler Murray, and I don't think Kyler Murray's going to be there. I think he's gone. I think he's seen his last time there in Arizona. But honestly, I think he's done a pretty good job with Jacoby Brissett. The guy's thrown 21 touchdowns to 7 picks. He has over 3,100 yards passing. They lost James Conner, their pride and joy of their team and their focal point of their offense at running back. He hasn't been there since like week 3 or 4. So, the problem is they're 3-13.
Right.
So, can you survive that? I don't think so. I think he's gone.
All right. How about, let's see. Well, Kevin Stefanski. Here's an interesting one. What? How is there a bigger of that? I mean, that's got to be the worst organization in professional sports with their decision making. First of all, the quarterback situation, and what goes on there, and then they're moving out of town, getting away from their fan base. I guess because they want that new stadium worse than anything. Talk to me. Who wants to take this one on? Stefanski.
James, you go first, buddy.
Oh my God. I mean, it's if Stefanski keeps his job, I think you're going to see some changes. Like Shedeur Sanders will get traded because it was. I mean, when they drafted him, the look on his face and the GM's face said it all. They didn't want him at all, and But I mean, it's just not Stefanski's been there for now, 6 years, 5 years? It's been a while. I mean, they haven't got really any better. And I mean, I didn't understand why they got rid of Baker Mayfield because Baker was actually doing pretty well. But I think they got to move on. I really do.
I think for his sake, the best thing that could happen to Kevin Stefanski is for him to get out of Cleveland. This is a guy who is a 2-time NFL Coach of the Year, and they're talking about firing his ass. Do I think it's his fault that the Browns suck? No, I really don't. I think that the reason the Browns suck is they started the season with 6 quarterbacks, none of which were going to help them win football games. And so, I think the best thing that could happen to Kevin Stefanski is that he leaves and gets to go anywhere else but Cleveland. And I think he will get hired pretty quickly, maybe not as a head coach, but definitely as an offensive coordinator, but maybe as a head coach. I think he'll get a job pretty quickly, and I think he will succeed if he can just get away from the Haslams.
How about the other side of the state of Ohio?
Yeah, my feeling on that guy. My feeling on that guy. I think Coach Taylor's a moron. Look at his record without Joe Burrow. He's lost like 80% of his games, 70% of his games are higher when Joe Burrow doesn't play. What does that tell me? That tells me Joe Burrow's good and that he sucks. So I think they should get rid of him. But based on what I know about the Bengals, based on what I've heard, it sounds like they're going to retain him. Joe Burrow said that he wants him to stay. Jamar Chase said that he wants him to stay. So, Mike Brown doesn't want to have to just go through the minutia of doing a coaching search because he's like 97 years old. So I think they'll just keep him and roll with it. But I think that the Bengals are wasting Joe Burrow's career, in my opinion. What say you, James?
Agreed. I mean, honestly, but the real problem is the front office. I mean, they paid all this money to all their specialty players, and who's going to block for them? I mean, There's a reason why Burrow got hurt. I mean, for a while there, I kept hearing Burrow was going to get wanted to get out of Cincinnati. I mean, I'm hearing the same thing about Lamar. I mean, I think this offseason is going to be pretty interesting. But Zach Taylor, yeah, it's time to move on.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know how he's managed to keep his job this long. And, it's that year was it 2021 when they managed to make it to the AFC title game? I think it was more, they did it in spite of Zach Taylor, not because of him. And Lou Alarimo, the defensive coordinator, he's resurrected his career. All he had to do was get out of Cincinnati and go to Indianapolis, and they were humming. When they had Daniel Jones and the offense was rolling. Things have kind of dropped off since then. But I think he's proven that he's a good defensive coordinator. And Zach Taylor, he's the guy calling the plays and in charge of that offense. And it's underperformed this year for sure.
All right. How about Mr. Todd Bowles down in Tampa Bay? They made the playoffs. I mean, he makes the playoffs in a bad division. He's the best of a bad division. But I mean, he still makes the playoffs. It's like you made it his fourth straight year making the playoffs as the head coach of that team.
Yeah, sure, well, they may not make it. They won yesterday, but if Atlanta wins, then Carolina goes. Okay. If it's a tie, then Tampa goes, or if New Orleans wins, Tampa goes. So that game today that really means nothing has turned into actually means something in this Atlanta New Orleans game. So that game is now turned into something that actually means something when really it shouldn't. But I like Todd Bowles, and I've stuck up for him a lot as well. But I got to be honest with you, what the hell happened? This team was 6-1, 6-2. They were rolling along. And they've lost 8 out of their last 10, or was it 7 out of their last 9 games they've lost? And why? It's coaching to me. I think this team is talented enough to win this division, just like Atlanta is. But it's who's the better coach? And I feel like he's let this team down. I think they may keep him another year, but I wouldn't be surprised if he got fired.
All right. I don't know why this one's on this list. Matt LaFleur in Green Bay. I mean,
oh, geez, no.
Yeah, we both agree. We both agree with that.
No,
Mike McDaniel. Did he do enough over the second half of the season to save his job, or is he? I mean, he couldn't have gotten the people in Miami or the Dolphin fans couldn't have gotten him out of Miami fast enough in the middle of the season. But for some reason, the team pulled together down the stretch. But now you have the Tua situation going on. Is Quinn Ewers going to be your quarterback? Are they going to go out maybe and try and get something flashy, like make a move for Lamar Jackson or a Burrow or somebody like that, a high-profile quarterback to bring in there or to have McDaniel tutor him? What about McDaniel's chances of making it through this offseason?
Go ahead, James.
Honestly, I would agree with you that if you would have told me mid-season, I would have said, if this was college football, he'd already be fired. I think he's going to stick around. I do. I mean, that's the one thing I kept looking at last year's draft is, I mean, Quinn Ewers was the wonder kid coming out of high school. I mean, hell, the kid reclassified, went to Ohio State. It's not like he had a bad year last year at Texas. Mm-hmm. And somehow he gets moved down to the 7th round because what possible injuries? This kid's got talent. It's just, I feel bad. I think Tua needs to hang it up for a career. The concussions, I just for his own well-being. Keep McDonald around. Let's run with Quinn Ewers because, I mean, there's potential there. I mean, you look at how they built their running game situation with Achane. I mean, they're building guys similar to him in that respect. Jalen Waddle, I don't think it's near the capability is what he's really capable of in that offense too as well. I don't know, Nate. What are your thoughts? Do you think they should keep him?
No, I agree with you. I think Quinn Ewers is going to be their quarterback next year. I really do. I think Tua's seen his last. I mean, why is he not playing now? If he was going to be their quarterback moving to the future, why would he not be playing? He's healthy, and they benched him. So I think he's done. I think they gave him a long-term big money deal, and that was that. Now, do I love Mike McDaniel as a coach? Not really, but I think bringing in Tua and giving him that huge contract was detrimental to this team, and he just can't do a lot of the things that you need your quarterback to do in the NFL. He just doesn't have the arm talent. He doesn't have the full repertoire that you need to win in this league. And Quinn Ewers can do those things. And I think if they can keep him going and keep – let's be honest, though. The reason they've won a lot of these games the last few weeks is because of their running game. Achane, as you mentioned, Jalen Wright, the former Tennessee Vol, he's run the football pretty well. And this team has gotten back to what they're good at, which is setting up the pass with the run. Quinn Ewers beat the Buccaneers last week, going 14-22 for almost 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, no picks. He looked pretty good. So I think they will probably bring him back. I think if they were going to fire him, they would have fired him when they were 3-7 or whatever they were to start the year, 2-8. I think they would have fired him then.
All right. How about one more up here? It's in the Northeast. It's a big point of contention. Aaron Glenn. If it's for a first-year coach, I think the most important thing I want to see in a first-year coach is how hard is this team playing at the end of the season? And the last 4 weeks have been a debacle. And this team may be the first team since 1933 to never have an interception during the year. And did they even throw the ball back in 33?
I don't think so. And wasn't Aaron Glenn a DB?
Yeah.
Well, my whole thing is when you bring in a new coach and you change your whole regime, what happens? Does the team get better? Does the team start looking better? Do you, even if the record isn't great, do you see signs that show you that you're on the right track? I've seen nothing out of this Jets team that leads me to believe they're on the right track. I like Aaron Glenn as a person. I think he's a good guy. I think he's a decent defensive coordinator. Do I think he's a head coach? Hell no. I think this team has gotten worse since he got there. He made Robert Saleh look like Vince Lombardi if you compare the 2 seasons. And this Jets team has just been a disaster. You play 16 games and can't pick off one pass. They try and blame it all on Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor. Hell, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. This team is inept in any way, shape, or form, in my opinion. And I think they should fire him, to be honest with you. I think he's a way worse than Gerard Mayo. And Gerard Mayo got fired after 1 year. And I thought he was doing a lot better job than Aaron Glenn. What do you think, James?
I mean, who was it that got traded mid-year? It was
Quinn Williams and
Sauce Gardner. They wholesaled everybody out of there. Anybody that had a pulse.
And then those text messages from Sauce Gardner came out. I mean, no one wants to be there, which means you have a coaching problem. If guys want to get the hell out of there, it's not about winning and losing. They just hate being there. So I think Aaron Glenn's got to go. I mean, it's just Grant. I think the Jets are cursed. I mean, they had a chance of getting Dan Marino. They took Ken O'Brien. I mean, that tells you a lot about this organization. I don't know. I wish the best for him, but God, Aaron Glenn's just got to go and honestly go back to Detroit. He had a good thing going with Campbell.
Yeah. Some of these guys, their coaches are destined to be coordinators, and they just got to look in the mirror and figure it out because they can't handle the rest of the aspects of the job, being a CEO and running everything. And unfortunately for Aaron Glenn, you can't go back home again. He did his career in the Jets, and he should have just left his playing career there. But I don't know where they move on to after that. But it's going to be interesting to see if they do fire him. Any other people?
They can't even lose right. If they had lost those games to the Bengals and the Browns that they actually won, then they'd have or lost the game a couple of weeks ago to the Falcons. They'd have the number 1 pick. They can't even lose right over there, idiots.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. I don't trust them getting the right pick, like he said about Marino and O'Brien. I've seen a multitude of Jet quarterbacks come through here, from Browning Nagel to to all these guys.
Browning Nagel. We're gonna bring up Richard Todd now too.
Yeah, Richard Todd. The solution. I mean, they bring in Boomer Esiason, and that doesn't work. They bring in O'Donnell, that doesn't work.
Ken O'Brien.
Yeah, I mean, it just nothing works with the Jets. I still say, growing up in this area, and I was a little kid at the time, the Mets, the Jets, and the Knicks all won within an 18-month period, and there had to be some kind of a witch or some kind of an evil spirit that said you can have this one time shining moment and never again, because all three have gone through more tragedy than triumph since that time. So I don't understand it. But anything else we want to get to today?
Well, I've just learned that the Wisconsin Badgers have signed a quarterback for this year. They landed dual threat QB Colton Joseph from Old Dominion. James, what's your thoughts on that? Does that fix Wisconsin's offensive woes?
So if things go as promised, he'll have a hell of a spring game, and then somehow get hurt
in the first week
or the first week of the season, and now we're on to our backup quarterback. So I could see how. I mean, maybe this guy just wants to get hurt the first week of the year and move on from there, but it's bound to happen. I mean, I thought they were going to get that D2 kid that was a 5-star who put him opened his mouth and said stupid stuff from West Florida. I thought they were going to go after him.
Well, I don't know. It says I just read an article earlier that they signed Colton Joseph out of Old Dominion, and then North Carolina and Bill Belichick have signed Billy Edwards Jr., the guy that played for Wisconsin last year and got hurt in the second game. So,
played is a strong word. Come on.
Yeah.
Played is a very strong word.
He was on the team for 2 weeks. And, he played in the opener where he hurt his knee, and they were able to beat Miami of Ohio 17-0 in that game. So I think I saw everything I needed to see in that one.
And James, well, I got you here. Bigger impact, Fitzgerald or Campbell in the Big Ten?
Oh, God. I'm going Fitzgerald. I mean, what he did at Northwestern, everybody's going to talk about the last few years. He won at Northwestern.
Yeah.
It's a hard place to win at. And that guy was such a culture guy. I mean, you put him in there. I think this is as big a hire at State since Nick Saban got hired. It's that kind of feel for it in my head. Now, a lot of people are all down in the mouth. Oh, look at his last couple of years. Forget recency bias. I mean, hell, Matt Campbell has been everybody's number 1 pick for how long? I felt bad. It just took this long to get a freaking take another job, because it looks like he was the second choice. Guy's still a good coach. And what Fitzgerald's bringing in the East Lansing from a coaching staff, I'm impressed. Deladabo, the D-line coach for the Arizona Cardinals, left a pro job to be the D-line coach at State. That guy's a good coach.
Yeah, I agree. I think Fitzgerald is going to do a good job at Michigan State. That's a program that's proven they can win in the Big Ten and has some previous success. Matt Campbell, everybody in up there in Penn State's acting like he's the savior. This was your 9th choice, guys. Yeah. So don't act like to me that this was your first option and that you hit a home run here. Do I think Matt Campbell did a good job at Iowa State? I do, but the expectations are completely different at Penn State.
Yes.
If you don't win the national championship at Penn State, you get fired after 5 games. In Iowa State, you win 8-9 games, they build a effing statue for you. So this is a completely different ball game for him. Also, he missed high school recruiting in December, so they signed 2 guys to their 2026 class. That's not going to be helpful. Maybe they can, steal a bunch of dudes in the portal, but really most of the guys they've signed so far are dudes from Iowa State that Matt Campbell's bringing with him. I don't think that bodes well. But, Joe, I will tell you, pretty impressed so far with all the moves that Northwestern has made. Bringing in Chip Kelly as their offensive coordinator, signing what's his name now? I'm losing it.
Jerry Neuheisel.
Jerry Neuheisel, thank you. As what is he going to be? The quarterback's coach?
Yeah.
And so you got Jerry Neuheisel, you got Chip Kelly. Those two guys together, that scares the shit out of me as far as what those guys can come up with offensively. So I think we're going to see a little bit of a resurgence here with Northwestern. They're moving into the new stadium. They've got a boatload of cash that's been donated that they can use to get some players, hopefully. And they got the coaches in place now to do something. So I think Northwestern might, surprise some people in the next 2 years.
Well, going back to the beginning of the program, Indiana did it. If you get it right, it can happen. So we will see.
Vanderbilt, look at Vanderbilt. I mean, This is a program that has been the doormat for the SEC for years and really has been a joke. And as James said, when Clark Lee was hired there, I have to give James a little credit. He told me, he said, listen, this guy's going to win at Vanderbilt. And I laughed in his face and was like, good luck. But he's done it. He's turned that program around. They came into Neyland here in Knoxville and kicked the ever-loving crap out of Tennessee, scoring 24 points to 3 in the second half. And, they made loser Smurf, Diego Pavia, into a Heisman Trophy contender. So if you can do that, you're doing something right. So I think it's kind of cool that some of these programs have started to show life, whereas they previously have not.
Well, if that's going to be the high point of the NIL and everything else, I'm all for it because it gets boring watching the same teams every year, one year in and then 1 year out to being the only teams that have a chance. So if that is the bottom line, as long as that is the bottom line, or it doesn't sink all the what they call it, the pageantry and everything of college football, I'm for it. So,
well, the SEC can't just win every single year anymore. Just because, the SEC can't just pay everybody under the table and, get all the guys they want and stack 5 stars anymore. And that's why you've seen, other conferences take a step forward. And hopefully the SEC will not win the national championship again for the 3rd year in a row.
Wow. We got Stephen French, who doesn't agree that Michigan State and Northwestern will be looking better, but we will see.
James was the one that said that Fitzgerald was going to be the best coach. I just said that I think he'll do a pretty good job, and Michigan State has won in the past. But, yeah, I do think Northwestern, I don't think they're going to be that good next year because they have no players. But I did say I liked the hire of Chip Kelly and also Rick Neuheisel's son, who did a pretty good job calling plays once he got the opportunity in UCLA. Do I think Northwestern's going to win the Big Ten next year? I do not. But I do think they're setting themselves up with an influx of cash. And, we've seen other programs like Indiana and Vandy take a step forward. There's going to be a couple that do, show up out of nowhere that's going to be unexpected. Am I for sure it's Northwestern? Maybe not. But I can tell you they're no longer playing in the women's soccer stadium. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's a step up. All right. We're going to call it a day. I'm going to get back to watching the pro football now. The Giants just went behind the Cowboys 10-6. Of course, Dak Prescott always beats the Giants. Good news for my team. So, fellas, thanks for joining us this Sunday morning. Hope the rest of the day goes well for you guys, and we will see you later.
Yep, and big shout out to Deuce, the hitman Harrison Smith, playing in his final game for the Minnesota Vikings today. Hall of Fame career. Everybody showed up to the stadium in 22 jerseys, either from Minnesota or from Notre Dame, to honor him. And kudos to the hitman for a phenomenal career, starting his career here in Knoxville, Tennessee, for the Knoxville Catholic Fighting Irish, and completing his career for the entirety of it in Minnesota. That doesn't happen very often, James, where somebody plays on one team for 12, 13 years. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now he's been phenomenal. I mean, honestly, you got to put him in the same breath with Paul Krause, which is, rarefied air in Minnesota Vikings history. So
who still leads he still owns the record for career interceptions in the NFL. Unbelievable.
Pretty cool.
All right, fellas. Talk to you later.
Have a great night.
You too.